Hey there, everybody. It's me, Lady Nick, your social media red guide for TLCtown.com. And today is cafe and courtyard kind of conversation. So grab a big either mug, depending upon what the weather is in your country, or grab a tall glass of something lemonade, tea, but stay hydrated because this is not only going to be just a post, but pretty much a summary of a situation that I went through. And it involves the courts, it involves legal matters, and it definitely shifted a great deal of how I perceive going into being a small business owner. Okay. First off, let me start this by a disclaimer. This is my personal experience. This has a whole host of other people who were involved in the same situation, in the same room, who came away with a different experience than myself. And in addition to that, in order to just keep a lot of what happened private because the other people don't have an opportunity to answer maybe some things that I said in regards to what happened and provide their perspective. So end all be all, this is my perspective, what happened to me, on this day. Okay, so speaking legally, when you decide to become a small business owner, there are certain things that define it as legitimate or an illegitimate business. What that is, you need to find out by actually filing the papers for your particular business. This is beyond envisioning and dreaming, and this is where the rubber hits the road and you decide, I'm going to either open up a restaurant, or I'm going to start a consulting business. Hey, I'm going to be an event planner. Whatever has stirred you in order to go into being a small business owner and finally give it structure and have it come to life, it's going to be your decision. So I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a tax attorney. I'm not an accountant. A lot of my stuff is taken care of by professional people as well. So I subcontract as well as, have a small staff of people that I'm getting ready to get on board with, especially my YouTube, and social media. I want to take it to a whole new level, so I need to acquire, people with the knowledge of the arena, social media, and not only that, in specificity of being a YouTube content creator. Okay, so all of that hopefully out of the way, one thing I know that I rarely visit is the court system. Here in the United States, the only time I've ever been to court, I can count on one hand. Whether it's been to support, a family or a friend, or even my own personal naturalization, or even my own time when I was naturalized as a citizen, of the United States, that brought along a lot of separation from your prior citizenship, and now you accept the citizenship and the laws of this country and abiding by that. So I'm not going to make this a long video, but definitely an in-depth perspective. So if you have any questions, polite comments, feel free to leave them in the section provided below. So wrapping up that portion, jury duty is a responsibility of every American citizen. If you live and are officially an American citizen of the United States of America, at one point in time, either you were given a notice of being called into serving as a juror, for jury duty. Irrespective of your experience, irrespective of your knowledge and understanding of the law per se, you are called to serve your country, the United States, in that manner. One manner, at least, we all have in common. So what I went through is finally, I think it was about my third or fourth, time I received a notice, and you call in to see whether or not you have to report, and lo and behold, I had to report that day. So I had to drop whatever I was doing, whatever contract I was working on at the time. It was like, okay, I have to report for jury duty, next day. And it just sort of kind of like took me by surprise, because it's like, okay, here's another thing I've never experienced within the American society, and now I have to, experience it, firsthand. So what happened as a result of that is whatever media, television show, this is pre-internet, pre-YouTube, I had gathered in my mind, I was told that you have to lay that perspective to the side. It doesn't happen like that in the court systems of real life. In real life, decisions are made. In real life, consequences happen. So by the time you reach a place where you're needing to have a jury decide your verdict, it's pretty serious. After the verdict has been rendered, there's going to be a change that can't be altered. So that's why I said, if you decided to be a small business owner, after the prayer, after you sought the Lord, you've read scripture, you've did all that stuff, file the papers, get the necessary paperwork done, have your finances in order, seek counsel. Peter Daniels is one person that I highly recommend above any and all people that I've ever recommended on my channel. So I'll leave a link below if you ever want to get in touch with his business ministry. It's been a while since I've actually seen him in person and was able to, receive a lot of the information and knowledge that he had in person. But that's a side story for another day and another time. Back to the court. Okay, so I reported first thing in the morning, and I had to fill out paperwork, of course, present identification that I was the person that I said I was. And right after reading through what I had to sign, because a lot of the perception I did receive, like, oh, I can't stand jury duty. I don't even want to serve. What do I have to say to get out of it? I was like, okay. I'm like, all that aside, I had to report. So one line read I'm probably misquoting it, but paraphrasing it, it said, let's say you decide not to express the truth in any statement that you answer. If they ever find out, not only will you lose whatever you've gained as far as compensation that day, but they'll fine you. So it's sort of kind of, for me, it's like shut up and serve. Period. So you can debate all you want to about how horrible it is and how you shouldn't have to go through this as, a citizen of this nation. It's like, okay, you know what? You are a citizen. You have to serve. Okay. So you sit in a room, and mind you, bring a couple bucks, even a few bucks, because you're going to pay too much at the vending machine. But if you need something to snack on, or bring something, warm to drink or cool to drink if you get dehydrated quickly, because you're probably going to spend most of the afternoon, if not the entire day, there in process of waiting to see if you have to serve, to see if they pick you for, the jury actually. So plan on spending at least 8 hours, wondering, figuring out what to do. In most jobs, what I hear now, when you're contracted, if you just submit your pay stub for that day, they will reimburse you. So at least in Illinois, I know that. I don't know about any other state. So, check with your employer if you have to serve. Maybe they might reimburse you the difference so that you come out win-win situation. Anyway. So I sat in the room, waited. They called our number. You were given a specific number. We found out several people were given your number, so you don't even know why or how your number was picked. Then you're ushered into the courtroom, and you are given some direction, and you're also asked to take an oath to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth, and you better help God helps you. So help you God. So it it was like after that, once you're sworn in, you are legally bound by what you say and what you have confessed to be the truth, and you're going to listen to the prosecutor as well as the defendant plead this, whether it's a civil case or a criminal case, on whether or not this person, who's guilty, what the fine is going to be, all of that. That's why I say the whole system, the weight of the system, like I felt that day. Like I have all my paperwork, filled out for all of my corporations, but it was like that moment of this is what either protects you or crumbles you, because if you're against it, then the weight of that law is going to come against you. If it's for it, then it's going to propel you, so you want to be on the side of the law, the good side. So, but that's another story for another time. So anyway, so the day passes, they make their selection, and lo and behold, I was picked. So for the next week, I had to block out, whatever schedule I had to do, I had to report. And mind you, needless to say, yes, there were complaints. Yes, there were people that had, issues with, because you're sitting all day, and you have to be prepared physically to sit in a cool room all day long for 8 to 10 hours and possibly more, depending upon how long your deliberation lasts. So it was just like, I just kept reminding myself, that if I choose to say something that's not true, eventually it'll get out there, and you don't want that to happen. So I was thankful that one of the jurors, actually, she was getting married. And in my mind, they tell us you can't talk about the court case, any part of the case in relation to what happens in the courtroom when we were in the sitting room. So every time we were, even tempted to talk about the situation, I was like, so how's the wedding going? How many people are invited? So it became, an activity that we would do in the break room. So that way, you're not even thinking about, the case. You are thinking about it, but you're kind of, pleasantly sidetracked by some of the other things that were going on in the other jurors' life. So oh my goodness, I wanted to say so much more. And I was like, you know what? For me, I'm glad I chose the profession that I chose as a consultant. Yes, it involves legalities. Yes, it involves, making sure things are done on the up and up. But this definitely has shifted the way I'm going to be organizing TLCtown.com. So I'm looking forward to, publishing my director's guide. So look forward to that in 2018 on how I established TLC Town Hall. And some of the, small business owners that I interviewed in a podcast, I have some updates on them and even some of the advice that they provided me as professionals. I went on and took some of their classes and sought their professional expertise. So all of that, in a 15-minute, presentation, it is an experience you will never forget. So if you're called for jury duty, granted, my prayers go out to you. But knowing that all things work for the good for them that love the Lord and who are called according to His purpose. So for me, it was definitely purposed. I thank God for the experience. Even if I'm called next year, I have to surrender to whatever and whenever they call me. Now, mind you, they do allow you to have, emergency cases where you can't report for jury duty, and you just, let them know that. But then they also have alternates. So let's say for whatever reason an emergency does happen, you can't serve the rest of your term, then they have an alternate to take your place. So that's my story for Cafe and Courtyard this Sunday. Let me know if you have a funny story or maybe something you may want to share that impacted you about going through the court systems of America. We're pretty blessed in this nation because one thing that we are allowed to do is have a right to a fair trial. And in that, whether it comes out you have to pay a guilty fine or you're innocent of all of the charges, case in point, you have an opportunity to present your case before the courts. Sometimes it doesn't happen. And, so before I start getting off into a whole nother subject, let me know what you think. Thanks so much for tuning in to tlctown.com. I'm Lady Nick, your social media red guy. Until next time, the next Cafe con Leche conversation. Thanks.